Hey you guys, this is Shane with the Global Poetry Society at the Dover Public Library in New Hampshire, and this is our first YouTube web stream for all intents and purposes. I'm in the lecture room right now on the second floor. What we'll do is we'll start with a quick preview of Langston Hughes. He was born in 1902. He was one of the primary figures in the Harlem Renaissance, which was a budding community of intellectual African Americans that explored the literary arts and artistic life, specifically in the 1920s, in a number of American cities, particularly Harlem. What's notable about Langston Hughes is that he wasn't just a poet, which is what we focus on in regards to world literature and poetry, but he was a novelist, an essayist, a playwright, and wrote many short stories. His goal in his literary endeavors was to honestly kind of capture the working class of African Americans, the everyday Joes that were, behind the scenes workers, whether they were in poverty or whether they were allowed to have a job status similar to the white man in the 20s, which was incredibly difficult in the first place. All the while trying to avoid any kind of sentimentality towards African Americans of the 20s or any kind of stereotypes, which was already pervasive with the vast swath of segregation that has already been endured. In one of his essays, The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, he wrote, "We younger Negro artists who create now intend to express our individual dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. If white people are pleased, we're glad. If they're not, it doesn't matter. We know we are beautiful and ugly too." End quote. I think that's a really great insight, considering that in the 1920s, this entire Harlem Renaissance movement was really launching itself from the ground up, very grassroots movement. And it being Black History Month, and I don't feel like I have a lot of place to really discuss this because of my own white privilege and my own ignorance of the various implications of growing up with a multicultural community. So I'm just kind of looking to be an ally through this. So we'll start with a collection of poems, and then we will call good. Sorry. The first one is Morning After. I was so sick last night, I didn't hardly know my mind. So sick last night, I didn't know my mind. I drank some bad liquor that almost made me blind. Had a dream last night, I thought I was in hell. I dreamt last night, I thought I was in hell. Woke up and looked around me. Babe, your mouth was open like a well. I said, baby, baby, don't snore so loud. Baby, please. Please don't snore so loud. You just a little bit, old woman, but sound like a great big crowd. What's notable about that one is it's a nice intro to give us an idea of who Langston Hughes was. He was definitely someone who used humor a lot in his work, which is great. The next one is I Too. As a preface, it's very much a throwback or a call and response approach to Walt Whitman's approach to unifying America in the 1800s. I Too. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Brass Spittoons. This one particularly is a wonderful critique of how the white population looked at African Americans and African American children and their roles in society. Brass Spittoons. Clean the spittoons, boy. Detroit, Chicago, Atlantic City, Palm Beach. Clean the spittoons. The steam in hotel kitchens and the smoke in hotel lobbies and the slime in hotel spittoons. Part of my life. Hey, boy. A nickel, a dime, a dollar, $2 a day. Hey, boy. A nickel, a dime, a dollar, $2, buy shoes for the baby, house rent to pay, gin on Saturday, church on Sunday. My God, baby and gin and church and women and Sunday, all mixed with dimes and dollars and clean spittoons and house rent to pay. Hey, boy, a bright bowl of brass is beautiful to the Lord, bright polished brass like the cymbals of King David's dancers, like the wine cups of Solomon. Hey, boy, a clean spittoon on the altar of the Lord. A clean, bright spittoon, all newly polished. At least I can offer that. Come here, boy. I first read that as a dry read, which is like, you don't know what you're reading, you're just going with the flow. What hit me most about that was the reference to King David, to the city of Solomon and King Solomon, and how a reference to like ancient Hebrew royalty also signified that there were children and slaves at the courts also. And I think that Langston was reminding us that like King David and King Solomon, like the days that he was living in was similar, where it was just this social caste system where African Americans and African American youth were still looked at as second-rate citizens, and making that connection, especially for Catholics and Christians of the day, to realize that these injustices are still occurring, and in 2021, it's sad to say they still are occurring, and it makes one ask, like, what can I do? How can I help break down those barriers further? And the next one is you and your whole race. You and your whole race. Look down upon the town in which you live and be ashamed. Look down upon white folks and upon yourselves and be ashamed that such supine poverty exists there, that such stupid ignorance breeds children there behind such humble shelters of despair, that you yourselves have not the sense to care, nor the manhood to stand up and say, I dare you to come one step nearer, evil world, with your hands of greed seeking to touch my throat. I dare you to come one step nearer me. When you can say that, you will be free. And lastly, God, which originally appeared in 1931, the October issue of Poetry magazine. I am God, without one friend, alone in my purity, world without end. Below me young lovers tread the sweet ground, but I am God, I cannot come down. Spring, life is love. Love is life only. Better to be human than God and lonely. It's actually a pretty fun poem. Um, in closing, um, the goal of the Global Poetry Society at the Dover Library here is not just to explore American poetry, nor British poetry. We have plenty of that already, but to explore um, poetry and their poets from across a historical timeline as well as literally the globe. We began by reading um, some ancient Chinese poetry from Wan Wei. We've explored, obviously, African American poetry, but also we'll be working in Russian poetry. We've worked with Argentinian communist poetry, and in doing so, it's a concerted and unified effort to bring awareness not just to like the everyday reader, that there's more beyond what we typically are taught in public education, whether it's high school or even college, but that there are many voices speaking in the world, and all of these voices are part of this one large human family. And in acknowledging that we all have stories and we all have different perspectives and we all have histories that grow from different walks of life, whether it be ancient Chinese Buddhist poetry or, as I mentioned recently, poetry that comes from communist philosophy. It's not to create debate, but to create um, conversations to understand each other. I mean, art is, after all, one person creating a means of expression from themselves to another person. Um, in literature, it's through the means of writing. In art, it's through the means of multimedia or painting or sketching. Um, so we're going to continue to do these live streams here at the Dover Public Library, and I hope that we'll be able to really get this to kick off in a fiery manner. Thank you.